All right, hey Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And we got to talk about a Vikings win over the Seahawks today on episode 72 of the Skol Hop.
Yeah, we did. Before that, I had to spin the wheel of purple punishments because I picked against the Vikings.
Man, never do that. Well, we also got to enjoy some brand new beer. Well, new to me, you tried it last week, but some great beer from River Ridge Brewing out of Bellevue, Iowa.
Yes, we did. And we also introduced a new segment, which I kind of had fun with, and I'm hoping we'll continue to include that in future episodes.
Yeah, I liked it too. That was good. But go ahead, grab your favorite beverage, and join us for episode 72 of the Skol Hop.
Skol.
We want to give a shout out to sponsor Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode and really the whole show for quite a while now. We should probably know. It's probably been about a year at least.
It's been a while.
But yeah, Big Top Ventures, if you are interested in going to a Mexican or Jamaican all-inclusive like I was just a couple of weeks ago, a week ago? I don't know. It's my brain's still in Jamaica. I think I said that last week. But if you're interested in going there, contact Big Top Ventures and just let them know, and they will get you the best price available to really anybody for a Mexican or Jamaican all-inclusive. You can contact them by sending an email to bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. And like I said, just let them know you're interested in going there, and they will get you all the details and the hookup on a great price. So thanks, Big Top Ventures.
Yeah. You know what we had to do?
What do we got to do?
I got to spin the wheel.
Yeah, you do.
Because I picked against the Vikings, and we're actually recording on Sunday, which is kind of fun. The Vikings game just wrapped up a few hours ago. The Vikings got the dub in Seattle for the first time in a long time, which we'll get into.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In a little bit here, but I have to spin the wheel of purple punishments.
I hope you either have to win an eBay auction or wax a limb. I don't know. I don't know which one I'd like more, but either way,
I'll take the eBay auction any day of the week. Okay. I am not prepared at all to wax anything.
You have everything you need. I'll just say that to wax a limb. So.
All right. Well, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
We're gonna spin it. Oh, let's turn the volume up a little bit. Make sure we can hear that spin. Here we go. And I will be winning an eBay auction. All right.
I predicted it. I should have said wax a limb first. Maybe the universe would have heard that. So yeah, you got to win an eBay auction. So kind of the gist behind this is you're going to record your screen here for a little bit. And we didn't really lay out the rules of this, but when I mentioned this, I kind of imagined over the course of the episode, or at least before this episode is done, you have to bid on and win any eBay auction you want, but it has to be an auction. Can't be a buy it now. And the thing about eBay is they're full of, you could just search your favorite sports teams, and there's always going to be a auction ending in the next few minutes of like a trading card or like a sports card of a player. So you won't have to spend too much. You could, if you wanted to drop some money on some like signed memorabilia or something, go for it. That's not in the rules, but if it were me, I'd try to go for like $1 trading card or something for the Vikings.
I'm not going to drop a lot of money. I'm just going to say that. I'll probably find something cheap.
Yep.
I did just get logged into eBay while you were kind of laying out the ground rules, so I think we're good there. Okay. I'm going to get this screen recording set up here, and then we'll just have that kind of maybe hanging out down in the corner somewhere. Before we do that, let's crack open these beers really quick, because the eBay auction, I don't know, that could take a few minutes. It could take
the whole episode. Maybe you think you're going to win your first one and somebody scoops in and snipes your player card for an extra $1 or something. And you got to try again.
Fun fact, I've never won an auction on eBay.
Oh, have you ever bid?
I've done a whole bunch of buy nows.
Okay.
But I've never done a true auction.
Nice.
So this is the first for me.
There we go.
And I will definitely be buying something Vikings related.
Yeah. That's kind of the nature of it.
So, but before we do that, let's get into these beers. So last week we had friend of the show Forrest on, and we were all in our respective homes. Just kind of circumstances dictated that, well, with your permission, I tried River Ridge Brewery. I tried a few of their beers that they graciously gave us. We've been talking about this for a few weeks now. We're going to be heading up there in January for a live podcast event with the Mainstream podcast. Yep. So that's pretty exciting. I happened to be driving kind of that way through the Bellevue area, stopped in there with a buddy of mine, and they graciously gave us a 6-pack of beer.
That's awesome.
To try on their episode. So I gave a sneak preview last week, but this is maybe more of like the full-fledged, we're going to try it. And they gave me a sample of this vanilla porter, and I'm
so excited.
I'm more excited for you to try it than maybe you are to try it yourself, because I think you and I have some fond memories of vanilla porter going back to our college days. The moment I tried this, and I have a witness that was sitting right next to me, our good friend Larry, he was like, he was sitting right to my left, just like you are. He can testify to the fact that I said, Austin will like this beer.
All right, I believe you.
As soon as I put my lips on it, I said, Austin will like this beer. So I really want to crack these open. I want you to try this.
All right, let's give this a try. This the name of it, again, is called Friends Vanilla Porter.
Yep.
And it's from River Ridge Brewing out of Bellevue, Iowa. And we'll talk about it later. But yeah, you mentioned we will be at that live podcast event being put on by the Mainstream podcast. I think it's called, I keep doing it. It's called On Tap.
On Tap, yep.
And January 18th, we'll be at the brewery. We'll have a live podcast there, and anybody can show up. It's free to attend. Of course, if you want beverages or food or anything like that, you'll have to pony up for that, but it doesn't cost anything to get in. So I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for this beer, and let's get going.
Yeah. And I will say, the people at River Ridge, the two guys working the bar the day that I was there, they were awesome. The atmosphere is super cool. It's right on the Mississippi. The building itself is like late 1800s building. Oh, nice. It's in the basement. It's like all this like stone facade. Super cool. Great place for a brewery. They collaborate with another brewery. In fact, I think they were technically bought out by another brewery, but they were able to keep their name, River Ridge, and they kind of are in collaboration with / under ownership of another brewery kind of in that same region.
I think I even heard the guys on the Mainstream, we've never been there, but I think I heard them say that there's even like a golf simulator at the brewery. That's pretty cool.
I didn't see it. It was in a different room, but the Mainstream studio is kind of right across the way. There's kind of like the brewery, then there's this like outdoor patio, and then I think their studio is right on the other side of the patio from the brewery. So
that's cool. All right, well, let's give this Friends Vanilla Porter a try. I'm excited. Skol.
Skol. It's just as good as it was in the bar.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that amazing?
That is delicious. Okay. Yes, these were given to us for free, but we are not paid for any opinion. Not that our opinion is really worth much anyways, but my goodness, this is delicious.
The vanilla, isn't it just so rich and just out front?
Great. Not like too much. It's really good. Really dark. You're not seeing through this. It's got really good head retention. I think the can said 6.2%, so it's holding its own. Oh my god. If you like vanilla porters, because it's kind of a genre of beers. There's a porter, but like a vanilla porter is like another branch off that. If you like those at all, this is one of the best I've ever had, and I like vanilla porters. So yes, this is better than Leinenkugel's vanilla porter. I'll say that.
Agreed. 100%.
Skol.
All right. I am going to get started on this eBay auction thing.
Yep. And this is a good time to mention too. We do put out the audio version of our podcast really everywhere you can find podcasts, but we also videotape this, so you can see our lovely faces and Evan's attempt at winning an eBay auction here by watching us on YouTube or Spotify. We clip out stuff for TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, but yeah, you can see us. If you like podcasts where you can watch it visually, we're available there too, so check us out. Evan, you are in eBay.
I am in eBay. Let's see here. Let's sort by ending the soonest.
Yep. I see trading cards and player cards.
Yeah.
Galore.
Dalvin Cook ending in a minute.
Ooh, okay.
Jordan Addison rookie card. Okay, I'm gonna bid on that. It's $1.50. I'm gonna place a bid. Yeah, see, I haven't done this before, and now I'm doxing myself.
No, we might be able to or we'll definitely clip out whatever we need to clip out or blur out whatever.
I gotta add a credit card. Oh, geez. All right. We might need to pause on this and come back.
That's fine. It's not like we don't have anything else to talk about. The Vikings played today, and we don't normally record on days that the Vikings play. So this was really cool to kind of think like, hey, we're going to talk about this game that we're watching right now in just a few hours. The Vikings went somewhere that they usually don't win at. Seattle, I think they've lost something like 5 straight or something like that in Seattle. And it's not usually a place the Vikings do pretty good in, but today, even with the rain, even with the 12th man that those fans like to call themselves, and the team retired that jersey because they're cheesy and they like to camp for their fans, even with all that and a tired defense, the Vikings pulled out a win, and it was an exciting one, a heart thumper.
It was definitely stressful at times. I have to refresh this. I'm gonna try again here.
Okay.
And I think I have some card information that I can get to. I'm gonna go down the list a little bit to an auction that doesn't end
in like 10 seconds.
In 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll kind of keep going as you work on that. So yeah, Sam Darnold. One thing that I thought was really cool is apparently Sam Darnold's really good. Did you know that? I'm becoming aware.
I did not know that. But
so today, Sam Darnold, I think he cemented himself as the sole record owner of, and this is kind of an obscure stat, but not really. But he has the most games for the Vikings in the regular season of a quarterback rating of 100 or more. I think he was tied with Dante Culpepper and maybe another player as of last week. But this week, he put himself over the top 12 games with a QBR of 100 or more. And I think today's was like 112 point something. So he didn't look like Superman 100% of the time today, but there were some plays and some situations that Sam Darnold looked unbeatable, unshakable. He looked amazing. Ben Lieber, after the game, he always has like a quick 1 or 2 minute little talk about the game on the field. He said Sam Darnold didn't just play like a Pro Bowler, he played like an all-pro, somebody that should be in MVP conversations. I'm not saying Sam Darnold should win MVP, but he should definitely be in those conversations. And he's taking the Vikings high places this year.
I put in a bid.
You put in a bid.
I'm very distracted right now.
This is good.
This is high stakes negotiation. I have a Jordan Addison rookie card, I believe, for 99 cents. It ends in less than 2 minutes now.
All right.
And I'm getting all these emails now.
That you're like the high bidder. Yeah. Well, let's hope you win it. Is there a shipping cost on this guy?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
It's probably a good thing we're not doing this live, because somebody might, try to get in there and overbid you just to see it happen.
Just bid me up so I spend way more than I should.
Well, eventually you just stop and try for another dollar card or something.
There's only 2 bids. I think it's myself and someone else. And I think I bid $4. So
okay.
It started at 99 cents and I quadrupled that.
So I don't know if you're not a frequent eBayer,
which I'm not.
you put in like your max bid, which it sounds like you put in $4.
Yep.
And it will only like put your actual bid up to be higher than what was the current bid. So if the current bid was 99 cents and you put a max bid of $4, I think it'll just put your bid to a dollar. And then if somebody outbids that, it will automatically up your bid up to $4. So for all those people listening to our podcast that don't know how eBay works, but so you might get it for less than $4.
I'm very much a novice, so I'll admit that right away. This doesn't seem like a punishment necessarily.
Well, you're gonna get something cool,
but
it's that you have to like stress out and do it on the show and spend, it's $1 or $4.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's see if we win it.
I really hope somebody snipes you. I just snipe him once. Just lose one bidding,
and then I got to go back to step one and find something else, and then bid on it. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Did I win it? It says it ended. I don't know if I won or not. Man. We're determining the winner. Please refresh the page.
Yeah, that's scary.
And I refreshed. It did not say. Payment processes in an hour.
I think that means you won.
I think I won.
There you go.
And I won with $2.75.
Ooh, so somebody did up their bid.
I think that includes shipping, though, and tax for 7 cents. So, yeah, we'll do it.
There you go.
Confirm and pay. We are going to be in possession of a Jordan Addison rookie card.
Keep an eye out. That might show up here in the studio somewhere. I don't know. At least for one episode, you'll have to display it, show it off once you get it. But yeah, that was fun. I don't know how entertaining that was for the listeners and viewers, but I had fun watching you kind of freak out about that.
Yeah.
Getting logged in and everything really quick.
It was something I wasn't prepared for. We'll just say that. But it was fun, and I don't know that I'm a huge eBay guy, but now that I know a little bit.
Just wait. You're going to, next week, you're going to be like, guys, I have a problem. I've spent $20,000 on eBay.
I can guarantee you that won't happen unless, we hit the big time.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon either. Not that it couldn't, but...
Maybe not. We did have 2 different videos on TikTok hit 1 million views in the last day.
Yeah. So, if you're into injury videos, check out our TikTok, The Skol Hop on TikTok. We have fun just analyzing kind of these major injuries that happen to players. Obviously, it's no fun to watch a player get injured.
Yeah.
But...
You don't root for it.
For some reason, people out there are... gluttons for that sort of content.
I am a glutton for other people's punishment, I guess.
So we've got a couple of videos that were posted in the Saturday games yesterday, just kind of documenting some of those injuries. So check us out there if you're interested in that.
I think Texans wide receiver Tank Dell had a pretty gruesome one, and the other video was Ravens running back Justice Hill.
Yeah.
He had a really scary, he got knocked out cold.
That concussion was
just went limp on the field. Yeah. So those videos are up on our TikTok page if that's something you're into. We're obviously not celebrating these things like Evan said. We're not cheering and rooting and hollering whenever somebody has a life-altering injury, but some people like watching that kind of stuff. And like I said, I am some people when it comes to that, but they're up there. But enough about all that. We got the Vikings.
Yeah.
The Vikings won their 13th straight football game. Well, not 13th straight. Their 13th game of the season.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen a whole lot for the Vikings. They've had plenty of seasons. They've won 10 or more, 11 or more, 12 or more. But there's only been 4 seasons, including this year, that the Vikings have won 13 or more games.
And Kevin O'Connell has been the coach for 2 of them.
Yeah, and he's only been the coach for 3 years. So
it's just wild.
66% of his coaching career, the Vikings have won at least 13 games.
Let me just pound the table right now and just say that guy needs to win the coach of the year.
Well, I mean, sure. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I'm personally not one that typically cares about those individual awards. Maybe I will if the Vikings ever win the big game and I don't have that looming over my head and my thoughts. But like, yeah, it was cool when Adrian won the MVP in 2012. It's really cool when the Vikings send more than 2 or 3 guys to the Pro Bowl. That's always fun. When Justin Jefferson got Offensive Player of the Year 2 years ago, that was pretty cool. And when Kevin O'Connell wins Coach of the Year, which he so far is the Coach of the Year in my book and in a lot of people's books, that will be really cool. But ultimately, for me, I don't really care too much about all that until the Vikings win the big game. And I'm not saying the word right now.
I think that's been the difference maker for this season, though, because even in his post-game speech to the team today, one game at a time, 1 week at a time, obviously he knows how special this is. He knows that and he acknowledged it's rare to win 13 games in this league. You don't do that normally. That's not a normal thing. That's not something that every team comes out and does. And there are plenty of teams out there that wish they could have won 13 games this year and didn't. And all the teams that have already been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs are like, yeah, we wish we would have won 13 games. That was the goal starting out this season. But I think he's got this team so grounded, so focused on what's ahead. And what's been fascinating to me is how the narrative has changed from the beginning of the season until now. Because when we made our preseason picks, which obviously I picked against the Vikings in this game against the Seahawks, which I think I had some justification to do so because the Vikings struggled going to Seattle. They hadn't won there in a very long time. The Vikings struggled going any Midwest, East Coast team struggles going to the West Coast. The time change is just different. It's weird. So that was kind of my logic in picking the Seahawks to win this game, and it's why I had to win that eBay auction a few minutes ago, which I did successfully.
Congrats.
And we'll get a nice little thing to feature here on the set. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is Kevin O'Connell has this team focused on the week to week. It's not about what's happening in a few weeks, like, oh, we could get the 1 seed. That's not their focus right now. And it's not, let's go win the Super Bowl. That's not their focus right now either. It's, okay, we just beat Seattle. Now we got to go beat Green Bay. And then after that, it's going to be, okay, now we got to go to Detroit and we've got to beat the Lions. Okay, now we're either going to be playing in the wild card round or we're going to be recovering for a week and hosting a playoff game in the divisional round. That's the mindset that he's got this team in, and that's good coaching in my opinion.
Absolutely. And hey, if you're a Vikings starter on the defense right now, you're probably really hoping we get that bye week in the first round, because they were on the field. I guess I don't know the exact breakdown of who was on the field for how long, but there were a couple of drives that the Vikings defense, they were gassed, and the Seahawks just stayed alive. And so if you're a defender right now, maybe even Harrison Smith, him missing today might have been a blessing in disguise, because that means it's, hopefully his injury, I think it's just foot is all they've said. Hopefully that's not a big deal. And even if he misses, next week against the Packers, like, hopefully he can come back. And for a guy that is as old as Harrison Smith and you and I are, having a couple of weeks off after playing most of all of these games this whole season is probably not a terrible thing. I looked it up. Still on the Vikings winning 13 games this year and counting. There's 2 more opportunities to win games in the regular season. When Kevin O'Connell was the offensive coordinator for the 2021 LA Rams, when they won the Super Bowl, that Rams team won 12 games. They were 12-5 in the regular season, and then obviously undefeated in the postseason. But Kevin O'Connell has won more games right now than that Super Bowl winning team did 3 years ago, which ultimately doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's just another sign that Kevin O'Connell is a positive reoccurrence for teams that he's coaching for. And you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of people that are more worthy of the Coach of the Year award. Not that anyone else isn't worthy, but for me, it's Kevin O'Connell, and I'm super biased, and I know.
I think I started on this thread a few minutes ago, and then I got sidetracked. But the narrative of this team has changed significantly, because we were sitting here when we made our preseason picks. This is the thread I was trying to go on, and then I got distracted.
It's all right.
Making our preseason picks, thinking like, the Vikings will be lucky to win 8 or 9 or 10 games, and I think you had them winning 10.
I preseason picked 11, and 11. I was delusional for that. Even I was kind of thinking like, this is being a homer. But
and friend of the show, Dustin Baker, went out on Twitter, I think it was either this last week or the week before, and said, people out there before the season were thinking that the Vikings would only win 8 or 9 games. I was one of those people, he admitted.
Yep.
And I was one of those people too. I think I predicted an 8-9 season. And it's crazy how this narrative has changed. It went from like, okay, they won a few games, right? It was a given. The Vikings will probably beat the Giants week 1. And then they won a couple of impressive games against the Niners and the Texans, and it was like, oh, okay, maybe this team is for real. And then they went 5-0 before the bye, and it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe this team is something. And then they come out of the bye and they were grounded immediately, brought back to reality with 2 straight losses to the Lions and the Rams.
Those 2 losses, I think, I forget, somebody pointed this out on KFAN in the last week or so. And sorry to jump in here, but those 2 losses to the Lions, which is a tough, physical, hard-fought game for both teams. It's just the Lions, they held it out and they won that game fair and square. But that game against the Lions, and then 5 days later, less than 5 full days after losing to the Lions, the Vikings had finished another NFL game and lost to a Rams team that has been showing since Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have come back. They're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
But in a span of 5 days, the Vikings, that's the only blip on the only actual blip, measurable blip on their schedule so far. They haven't had perfect games outside of that, but they've won every game outside of those 5 days. So all that to say, it's a great season. What did I interrupt you saying?
Well, I mean, I guess just continuing in the flow of the season. Yeah, those 2 games, that was rough. And it was kind of like, okay, they were brought back to earth for a minute. They were flying high. They came off the bye and they struggled for 2 straight weeks. And yes, they did have a short week in the second week after their bye, which probably contributed to the loss against the Rams. But even since then, they've had some ugly games. The 4 field goal win over the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold was arguably the worst player on the field in that game. And Kevin O'Connell could have thrown in the towel on this Sam Darnold experiment on that day and just said, nope, you're not the guy anymore. But he's stuck with the guy, and the dude has been balling out. I mean, he's played at a very high level, putting up numbers better than former MVPs and MVPs that are, or MVPs to be, I suppose we could say, like Josh Allen. Like he's putting up really, really good numbers as a quarterback, and it's been fun to watch. Even today, he looked really, really good, and it's nice to have a quarterback that you're not super stressed about.
Yeah.
And you're not pulling your hair out every time he drops back and like, oh my gosh, get rid of the ball.
Yeah. Not to say he's perfect, and that's not what you're saying. I do think sometimes it seems like he holds on to the ball a little bit longer, but we're staring at him. We're not staring at what he's staring at. So maybe there is nowhere else to go. But he has seemed more calculated since that Jaguars game. Which, thank the Lord, was a win. So it's nice to make mistakes and still win. But since that Jaguars game, he kind of reset himself. The next game or 2, he was very cautious and very limited and
wouldn't even throw
cautious
to Justin Jefferson at times, because the interceptions he threw in that Jacksonville game were all Justin Jefferson targets, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And so since then, he started off very overly cautious, and then it's kind of like he's let his own leash a little bit longer, trust everyone else a little bit more. Don't just gunsling it. If we want a gunslinger, we got Nick Mullins on the roster. An effort gunslinger, somebody that I don't care if there's 12 defenders around him, I'm going to throw it to him. But he has seemed to flourish since that dud of a Jaguars game, and he's gotten better and better and better. And I think maybe today he didn't have his most passing yards of the season, definitely didn't have 5 touchdowns, so it's not his most touchdowns of the season. But correct me if I'm wrong, no interceptions today,
no picks,
and 3 touchdowns, yep. 246 or something passing yards, and a couple of savvy rushing plays too. He is peaking at the right time, and I'm really glad that Sam Darnold's the quarterback for the Vikings right now. That Jaguars game, if J.J. McCarthy had been healthy, KOC was already kind of fielding questions with J.J. McCarthy being hurt. Like, if you remember, KOC, after that game, he gave Sam Darnold a game ball. I'm pretty sure he gave him a game ball. Maybe it was the game after that he gave him a game ball.
I think it was after. I don't think he gave him a game ball after that miserable performance against the Jags, but I think it was kind of a show of I'm with you, buddy.
Yeah, I think it was the Titans game, which was after that. But he was telling reporters oh yeah, Sam unequivocally he is QB1 right now. He is our guy. I think a reporter or two kind of asked him something along the lines of did you ever think about pulling him out? Did you ever think about making a switch? And KOC just immediately answered those questions with no, he's our guy. Never even put 2 seconds of thought into pulling him out, which power to him. It's working. I would have pulled him in that game. I think most people would have. And so far it's working out.
And I think that's an interesting wrinkle to this whole season too, is if J.J. McCarthy would have been available at any point, especially considering that Jaguars game, I think we may have seen him at some point, but we haven't. And he hasn't even been an option for Kevin O'Connell. And I think you and I would both agree a healthy J.J. McCarthy is better than a healthy Nick Mullins.
Oh, Nick Mullins. Yeah, I thought you were going to say Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is an argument. Nick Mullins, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I'm saying in relief of Darnold, if things got so bad with Sam Darnold, they had to go with somebody else. J.J. McCarthy would have been the next guy up. It would not have been Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins would be, right now, I think, if J.J. McCarthy were healthy, all things being the same, Sam Darnold plays exactly like he has through the, what is it now, 16 games?
15 games.
15 games. Everything being the same, if J.J. McCarthy's healthy, he's QB2. Mullins is that emergency suited up but not technically active for the game.
Absolutely. And Daniel Jones isn't on the roster, even practice squad. Maybe
the Daniel Jones thing, but Brett Ripien's definitely not in the picture. He's gone. He's probably sitting at home wondering what could have been.
Well, and remember, it was Jaron Hall, and then Ripien was available, and they signed Ripien and cut Hall with the intent of bringing him back to the practice squad, and Hall was like, I'm going to go to Seattle. But anyways, back to Seattle. Should we just kind of talk roses and thorns?
Let's do it, yeah.
So I think my rose was, for me, even though they weren't perfect, it was the resilience and gutting out of the Vikings defense. They spent a lot of time on the field. They had a couple of plays where they thought they got off the field, and lo and behold, there was a penalty, and now you got to go right back down. They let a pretty decent fringe playoff team score 24 points, but when it mattered the most, they ended the game with a game-sealing interception from a guy who's Theo Jackson, who's playing a lot more right now because Harrison Smith wasn't an option today. Levi Drake Rodriguez, I think this might have been one of his first games actually playing, and he had a couple of solid run defense plays. Some guys made some plays and ultimately did what they had to do on the defensive side of the ball to help get the Vikings the win. So they were my rose, even though they weren't perfect. They stuck it and held it out and did their job.
Yeah, the defense was definitely admirable today. There were times where I was like ripping my hair out with that defense. Like, why are they gaining so many yards? How is DK Metcalf catching these passes?
Yeah.
Like, what on earth is going on? But yeah, they played really well, and their grittiness down the stretch was for sure a huge positive in this game, and sealed it.
And take nothing from the Seahawks. There were some plays, some passes, and some catches. I think a DK Metcalf touchdown. There was a Jackson Smith and Jigba, like, middle of the field dart that he caught, that some of those plays were just like, you can't even be mad about that because the Seahawks just perfectly performed those plays. Like, how do you defend that?
Yeah.
The guy's in the right spot. Why did he even throw that ball? It worked out for the Seahawks, but like, holy cow, there were some of those that were hair-pulling worthy.
Yeah.
Very early in the game, Dallas Turner had his first interception of his career.
Yes, he
That
did.
was pretty awesome.
That
and
was
that
great.
play...
Metellus was providing the pressure.
Yeah.
You would think it would be the opposite, right? You would think Dallas Turner would put the pressure on the quarterback and Metellus would make the interception, but no, it was the opposite, which was cool.
And I texted you. I was sad for a tenth of a second because Metellus didn't get the sack. And then I was really happy because somebody got an interception. Lo and behold, it was Dallas Turner. Ben Lieber made a really good point about that, and I just completely lost it. I think, about Dallas Turner on that play. Dallas Turner is a pass rusher. He goes forward.
Yeah, he's not
ahead.
supposed to drop back. I watched the same video.
And Ben Lieber said, he went back and still made the play.
In this scheme, in the Brian Flores scheme, you have to be prepared to do both. And I think that proves how much he's matured. We were all kind of, a myth earlier in the season, like, where's Dallas Turner? How come he's not been playing a whole lot? And I think he's needed some time to develop. I think he's needed some time to really figure out this Brian Flores system and figure out how to play in it. And I think Brian Flores has recognized that too. Like, yeah, he's just young and green and inexperienced, and we'll get him in there. He's a good player. They wouldn't have drafted him so high if Brian Flores didn't think he was starter worthy. But it's not. He's not this. Just throw him out there and let him have every snap on defense. And so I think he's matured really well. Kind of like a fine wine. He's developed over time, and I think he's only going to get better.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's because of that mostly, among a lot of other things, but mostly because of the young guys developing. I really hope Brian Flores sticks around for at least one more year.
I think that's it's kind of an underrated storyline for this Vikings team right now, because there's, obviously the quarterback situation. Are they going to stick with Sam Darnold, which he's definitely made a case for, like,
he's getting paid.
Bring him back. And
bring him back.
He's going to get paid wherever he goes, but I think he's made a case to come back to the Vikings for sure, as I'm wearing my Sammy D shirt. And there's a ton of other players that are going to be free agents next year. Like, half the defense is going to be a free agent next year. So there's a bunch of storylines circling around that. I think this week the biggest storyline was Cam Bynum.
Oh, yeah.
They failed to seal up a big extension with him over the offseason, so he's one of the biggest question marks, and he's been playing really well, and he has. And it's not just about his, choreographed celebrations. It's about how well he's been playing, and yeah, he definitely deserves a look, for sure.
Absolutely.
And if the Vikings can make it work, if Kwesi can make it work in the budget, you got to bring a guy like him back for sure.
100%.
But I think Brian Flores is definitely one of those, like, subliminal storylines. Like, I even read an article today about head coaching vacancies, and Brian Flores' name was kind of absent in the article. Like, he's not necessarily this, like, top candidate for these available head coaching jobs in the NFL.
Yeah. And I don't think his name, I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job. Maybe interviews, but I don't think he'll get an offer or a job until his legal stuff against the league is
resolved,
cleared up.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be like, he has to lose for him to still get a job. I think they don't. these owners, they don't really care about that. It's like, just, okay, it's more about ego, and then do I have to cut a check, and then business after that. And he's obviously a really good coach. Yep. But yeah, I think if his legal stuff is still going on, he'll be the Vikings defensive coordinator for as long as both sides want that to be the case, which hopefully is at least one more season.
Hopefully long term. So my rose for this game is Justin Jefferson. JJ had his best game of the season, I think, yardage wise anyways.
It's close, but yeah, probably.
I mean, definitely in the last 5 games, he's got more yards than he has. He kind of peaked against the Falcons several weeks ago with 132 yards. That was a great game. Sam Darnold threw 5 touchdowns, 2 of them to JJ, the other 3 to Jordan Addison. But today was kind of the Justin Jefferson game in terms of the Vikings offense. He scored 2 touchdowns. He scored 1 early to really kind of assert the Vikings' dominance in the game, and then he sealed the game. I mean, he was the game-winning touchdown at the end.
Yeah, how about that play? That play
was beautiful.
The microcosm of the whole game in that play, and it was awesome. Yeah, but anyways.
But he's not just a touchdown machine. I guess that's the rose and the positive that I'm really trying to draw out of this. He had 144 yards on 13 targets, 10 catches. It was just a phenomenal performance, arguably his best. And the Seahawks secondary isn't necessarily anything to write home about, I don't think. It's not like they're the league's best. But there were... I don't know. There were some moments there where it seemed like maybe they kind of got the best of Sam Darnold and the Vikings, and they made it tough down the stretch. So, I don't know. Justin Jefferson, it was just nice to see him be front and center for once. Yeah. It was nice to see him not play second fiddle to Jordan Addison, because he's not the second fiddle to Jordan Addison on this team, and I think everybody knows it. KOC knows it, Sam Darnold knows it, and even Justin Jefferson knows it, and he's acknowledged it in his press conferences. Opposing teams have 2 options: throw it to everybody else or throw it to me, or defend everybody else or defend me, I guess, is what defending teams have to do. And, you know, I think in moments today, they chose to defend everybody else instead of Justin Jefferson, and that opened him up, and he had a really, really good day, and that pushed this offense where it needed to be in those key clutch moments at the end of the game to get that game sealing touchdown. So
yeah, absolutely. Justin Jefferson, NFL superstar, maybe the best player on the Vikings, and I don't know if you can argue really anybody else. He's I can't argue with that being your rose. Thorns for me, just the offense had their traditional low points. They went to sleep for a little while. Sometimes there were a few big points of the game where they needed a few yards, or they needed a first down, or they needed to close the game away, and they just didn't. They kind of fell asleep for a little while, and then at the end, they didn't seal the game away by, getting 7 yards for a first down, which would have let them kneel out the rest of the clock. Ultimately, they gave the ball back, and the defense yet again had to save the day and get another turnover to win the game. The offense, I still think, is a net positive. I still think it's good. We've basically been raving about offensive players this whole podcast today, but they're frustrating at times because it feels like they're this this beautiful race car that sometimes just runs out of gas, and you can't do anything if you've run out of gas, and that's just crazy because they're a perfectly tuned race car that could do the world, and it's like they don't care sometimes. So that's my biggest thorn, is that they disappear.
And I don't know that it's they don't care. Yeah, that's how we perceive it as fans when we're watching. Like, don't you guys, can't you guys just, do a little better? Kevin O'Connell, can't you just call a better play in that situation. I think I texted you at one point today while we were watching the game, like, that's not the play call right there. That's a bad play call. Call a better play. You have to have a better play in your bag for that scenario. I don't even remember what the scenario was, but it was just like, that's not the play. And it didn't result in a first down, and it resulted in a Vikings punt, and that ended the drive. And I'm not so delusional to think that the Vikings are going to score on every single possession.
Yeah.
But this team,
they're definitely capable. Yeah.
They can. They're capable. I think the biggest weakness, and this is going to be my thorn, is this offensive line. It's been kind of a thorn in the side of Vikings fans and the team in general all season long. I think it's the weakest aspect of the Vikings game. And I think it starts in the middle with Garrett Bradbury. And that's not to, throw any shade on the man himself. I think he's a great guy. But he's undersized, and he's bullied a lot. He gets pushed around a lot. You got to be a little bigger, and you got to be a little more stout in that position. You have to hold your ground. You can't just get pushed over all the time. And to compound that problem, you're missing an all-pro, I don't even know how many millions of dollars his contract was, but
over 100.
Christian Darrisaw on the left side, like, you're missing him as well. And Cam Robinson has been a great acquisition for this team. Kwesi really demonstrated his ability to kind of play the market and find an adequate replacement for him, but he's not the same. He had a few penalties. He's had several penalties over the last several weeks, and he's not the same presence. He's not that towering left tackle presence that's going to protect your quarterback's blind side that Christian Darrisaw is. So I'm grateful for Cam Robinson. Love the fact that he's wearing purple right now. I don't know what his future looks like after this year if Christian Darrisaw is healthy going into next season. But this offensive line is struggling. Brian O'Neill even kind of had a few moments.
A couple weird plays, a false start that he kind of flinched like 6 times. And I texted you. I was like, how many times is Brian O'Neill going to false start on the same play?
Right.
But, I mean, we both agree Brian O'Neill is one of the best right tackles in football. But, even nobody's perfect. And, that offensive line that I think Cam Robinson today might have been his worst game as a Viking, which is crazy because his first game as a Viking was like perfect.
So good.
He was, 100% for like the first 2 or 3 games, and he's still really good. And he's still better than probably, is it David Quessenberry, who is a very fine backup in his own right. He's still probably better than a regular starting Quessenberry would be. But Cam Robinson, it seems like he's shown some cracks a little bit. They did make a change on the interior with Ed Ingram, getting swapped out for Dalton Reisner, which I don't know. I mean, I haven't paid enough attention to know, but is that not working out as well as they thought they would? Garrett Bradbury, like you said, he's always been bullied around because he's not the behemoth of a center that a lot of guys are. The nice thing is Sam Darnold and the skill players seem to be working around that, and the offensive line plays, I think, good enough. It's just some plays are like, oh my gosh, Sam Darnold just got the ball, and there's already 2 defenders in his face.
And I think the silver lining, too, is Sam Darnold specifically plays well under pressure. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, perhaps.
This year, not his whole career, but yeah.
Yeah, this year. Perhaps the best quarterback this season under pressure when he's been blitzed. So that's encouraging, but it's still frustrating to watch as a fan when you're like, he's got 0.05 seconds to do something, and then he's in the dirt. Like, you guys have to protect. You have to protect for that guy. And Reisner comes in being touted as a pass protection guy, and I wondered early on if they would kind of flip-flop back and forth between Ed Ingram and Dalton Reisner, run blocking, pass protection, if they would kind of just interchange those guys. But it hasn't seemed that way. Reisner's been the guy to the right of Garrett Bradbury, and there really hasn't been any question about it. So But yeah, I think the offensive line, if there was a weak point on this team, it's that. Yep. And if there was a way that the Vikings could improve as a team, it's that unit right there. They have to play better, I think, especially if they're going to make this push in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, game balls. What do you think if we kind of do this together? Like you do offense, I'll do defense, and then I'm sure we could both agree on one special teams game ball. What do you think about that?
Sure.
All right. So
you want me to do offense or you?
Or I guess it doesn't matter if you got a good one for any of it. Go for it.
I'll cheat and just do 2 for offense.
Okay.
Because I mean, it takes 2 to tango. Sure. When you're talking about receiving yards. Somebody has to throw the ball to the guy catching all the passes. So I'm going to give them to Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
On offense. And I think they both got game balls in the locker room.
I didn't see any of the post games, so
I could be wrong. I know Justin Jefferson did from KOC, but it takes a guy to throw those balls to him in order. Now that I'm saying that, I know for a fact Sam Darnold got it. He got the last one, and it was the most emphatic of the game balls from KOC. But yeah, Sam Darnold has played really, really well in tough situations, in those clutch situations. I'm excited to see how he plays against these 2 divisional rivals, the Packers and the Lions, to close out the season. Knowing that there's more than just the playoffs on the line now, it's seeding. And Justin Jefferson, we've kind of been... I've probably been complaining about him this season a little bit. Not that he's been playing bad, but just that he's been covered so much that the Vikings haven't been able to incorporate him into the game plan as much. So to see him affect the game like he did today with 2 touchdowns and 144 yards, that was special. And that's the type of player that I know him to be. And I'm excited about what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Well, and I kind of have a little bit of a hot take on Justin Jefferson. I think after today and really the last handful of weeks where he's been doing phenomenal, teams, they're just going to decide. They're going to say, okay, I think we're better off putting a lot of resources towards him and then hoping the rest of the other guys just get covered good enough to not break the game. I think he won't have too many. There's only 2 games left in the regular season. I don't think he's going to have another 100-yard game. He might not have another touchdown. I just think the Packers and the Lions are both going to sell out for this guy and hope that the other guys don't beat him. But I think it's more likely that both TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison both have a single game with 100 yards each than Justin Jefferson getting enough space and enough room to get really much going. I think he has earned the right to be shut down, and I think defenses are going to hurt themselves, but they're going to do everything they can to stop Justin Jefferson.
All right. That is a hot take.
Yeah. And I might be wrong. That's okay. But I was right about an 11-win season.
You're kind of right. They won more than 11
I was still
games.
wrong. I was super homer and optimistic, but I was still wrong.
We need to try this other beer.
Yeah.
We're both out, and I'm not going to pour mine into this mug because it's been affected by the other really great beer that we've already tried. So I'm going to put that off to the side. But the other beer that we were given by River Ridge is this Lucky Catch Irish Red Ale.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
And you'll notice the cans are the same. That's because they can everything fresh for us. So this was canned 2 weeks ago, and I watched them put the beer into the can, seal the can with the top, and now it's here for us to try.
Awesome. So, yeah, and they wrote right on there, Lucky Catch Irish Red. It says 5%, so I'm really excited for this one too. It's going to be hard to beat that vanilla porter.
That vanilla porter is so good, and I think when we're there in a few weeks in January, I will definitely be having one of those.
That'll be my first one.
And I think you will too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this one's pretty good too.
All right, Skol.
Skol. All right, so we've talked a little bit about offensive game balls. Who's your defensive game ball?
So I really think there could be a couple, but I am only going to give one. I think Andrew Van Ginkel, we could give probably 4 or 5 game balls. I don't know how many defenders got game balls from KOC today, but at least for the first portion of the game, and really kind of consistently throughout the game, Andrew Van Ginkel was everywhere. I think he had 2 sacks today. He's just a monster. He joined Jonathan Grenard in the 10 sack club for the season, which I feel like hasn't happened very often for one team to have 2 guys have 10 or more sacks. I think I saw a stat that like he's the first player since like 1982 or something to have 10 plus sacks and 2 or more pick sixes. Which again, you're talking about just a handful of plays throughout the whole season, but you don't get those stats without being everywhere on every play of every game. So he easily probably throughout the season could have had another 10 plus sacks. It's just, you don't get them all. But today he was everywhere for me. He's been playing great all season, and I think he very much deserved a game ball from today. And when I watch back, I really hope KOC gave him one.
I think he did. I can't remember. I watched it, but
yeah,
I was a little more focused on a few other players. But man, this defense has proven that they will keep this Vikings team in games. Regardless of the circumstance, they will keep this team in games, and there are plenty of players to do it. You've got Van Ginkel, but you've also got Grenard. You've got Blake Cashman, who the only 2 games the Vikings have lost were the 2 games he missed due to injury. You've got the secondary with Bynum and Murphy and Shaq Griffin and Metellus and
Stephon Gilmore, who had, I think he had a kind of overall rough game.
He did. He showed maybe his age a little bit against some younger and faster receivers, especially that one play on, I think it was on Metcalf, where he got called. Didn't he get called for a PI?
Oh, it was either a holding or a pass interference, and there was one that he got called for it, and I think it was kind of BS. But
it was questionable for sure. But anyways, Gilmore definitely looked on the older edge of things for for a quarterback in the National Football League. But I'm still glad he's a Viking. He's played really, really well this season. And I don't know if he was just a little, cautious with the hamstring that he's been dealing with or what, but the list could go on, right? On defense. I mean, we haven't even mentioned the guys up front, Jerry Tillery and Harrison Phillips. And I think they missed Jalen Redmond as a presence up front.
Which is crazy. That's awesome, yeah.
But yeah, undrafted guy, right? Who's kind of made an impact. There's no end to the guys that you could name on defense. Like, it's just like one guy after another. Yeah. And they've just proven again and again and again, even today when they were gassed and tired and they could have just, phoned it in and, let the Seahawks win a close one. They didn't. And I think that's a testament to Brian Flores as a coach. It's a testament to Kevin O'Connell as the head coach of this team, and it's a testament to every single one of those guys that goes out there and puts their body on the line to defend the football for this team. It's
absolutely awesome. Yeah, and no less Theo Jackson getting that game-sealing interception at the end. That was wonderful. I was convinced the Seahawks were going to march down and at least kick a field goal and send it to overtime or something. But yeah, overall, it was a great game. I think the defense led the way, and Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson both gutted it out enough to make a beautiful, crazy play and ice the game a little bit. Special teams game ball, I think there's one clear-cut guy of the 3, really. But please correct me if I'm wrong. I think Ryan Wright won the game ball of the 3.
100%.
They all looked great. Will Reichard, he made 1 field goal, correct? And then all of the extra points.
Yes, I think that's correct.
But
I'll double check. But
Ryan Wright was called on the most of anybody. Maybe Reichard had 2 field goals. Ryan Wright was called on the most. And
2 field goals, but he made both of them.
Yeah, and he punted really well. There was one point the Vikings had a disappointing 3-and-out, and I was thinking, yeah, that was awful. But at least Ryan Wright punted the ball and got him inside the 20. It was a great punt.
You texted me that. I was mad. I was like,
yeah.
This sucks. And you're like, well, at least he punted it inside the 20, and I was still a little salty after
whatever,
that. Like, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Still punt.
But yeah, he had over 300 yards punting, which you don't want to be in a situation where your punter's punting that much.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that you got a guy like that can help you flip field position and that can help you win games when you need it. And on the road in the rain like this, the Vikings needed a guy like him.
Absolutely.
And I think he definitely deserves that special team game ball.
It's kind of funny because I was listening to KFAN's fan line after the Bears game last week, and somebody called in and they asked something about punting. It was because Ryan Wright got that. It was a blocked punt, so it was a clean play, but he got rocked in the Bears game, and he, I guess, could have been better in that game. But somebody called in and asked, like, hey, should we be concerned? Like, there's other punters that have way better stats than him. And Ron Johnson, the former Gopher, and I think he played for the Ravens, bounced around a little bit in the league. He is on that KFAN fan line. And he kind of brought up that, like, yeah, the only stats you really see from punters are, like, their average distance, and then also, like, how many touchbacks they get. But that average distance doesn't really take into account, like, if it was a short field punt, like, if they... You can only get a long punt if you're way back,
Right.
And he did finish that answer by saying, I'm pretty sure Ryan Wright, he's proven he can. If you're kind of, back in your own side of the field, he can punt a ball pretty deep. And he proved that today. He had at least that one in that was inside the 20, and
a 63-yard punt was his long today.
That's not easy because you also, like, punts can be returned too, and that one I think bounced out of bounds. Yeah, for me, Ryan Wright, clear cut special teams game ball for the Vikings today.
Yeah. Honorable mention, Will Reichard, just coming off of injury, his second game back, knocking through every kick, both field goals that he attempted and all 3 extra points that he attempted. He scored 9 points for the Vikings. Without him, the Vikings lose this game. Honorable mention to Will Reichard, but I definitely agree with you. Ryan Wright gets the game ball for sure. I want to interject here, and I want to add a new segment to what we've been doing here. And maybe this will be a one-off thing, or maybe this will become a regular thing.
Okay.
But I was sipping my coffee this morning, scrolling Twitter, which I do pretty much daily.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
While I'm waking up in the morning. And I came across a tweet that was pretty provocative, pretty... Like I found myself in my own head arguing with the author of this tweet. Like I got on my soapbox a little bit.
Okay.
So I figured we could try this out, and next week you can bring in a tweet where you're like, yeah, I think I've got a strong case to argue against this.
All right.
But I'm going to argue against this one today. And we'll put this tweet up here on the screen. And if you're just listening, I'll describe the tweet for you so you have some context here. But I'm going to just describe the tweet, and we'll show it, of course, for those that are watching. And then I'm going to make a case against this tweet.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, this was a tweet by Brad Holmes Bulge.
Okay. A very smart sounding Twitter handle here.
Yeah. Never seen anything by him before, but who knows? Could be a pretty knowledgeable Twitter user, user.
Sure.
I don't know. Anyways, he posted an image. Okay. Let me paint you a picture of the image. The image has a grid of the 4 NFC North teams: Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears, and the title of the image is Wins versus Teams with a Winning Record, 500 or better.
Okay.
So it has, this was, I think, before all of the weekend games. So the Vikings games this week and the Lions game the other day.
Yeah.
So I think the Lions are up to 8 wins now. The image says 7. The Vikings are up to 4 wins now because they just beat the Seahawks. The image says 3. The Packers are at 4 wins and will stay there, right?
Yeah, I think, who do they play? The Saints tomorrow?
They play the Saints tomorrow night. So even if they win, it won't be a win over a team over 500. And then the Bears lost to the Lions today. So the Bears stay at 1. So it says wins versus team with a winning record. And I get that the image is a little outdated.
Yeah. By a couple of days, but yeah.
But I still saw it today. And the tweet, the words that this user chose to add to this image, and this person could have made this image himself.
Yeah, I don't know if this is accurate. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't know.
The tweet, though, was not all 12-win teams are built to the same. #One Pride.
Okay.
And I have a little bit of an issue.
And of course, both the Lions and Vikings are 13-win teams right now.
Yes. So the Lions and the Vikings are now both 13-win teams. When this was posted, I think they were both 12-win teams. So again, a little outdated, but I think still relevant.
Yeah.
And this seems like a dig at the Vikings.
Oh, it absolutely is.
It's a Lions fan digging at the Vikings for being, quote unquote, fraudulent.
Sure.
It's a dig at the Vikings for being fake, for being not a real good team because they haven't beat anybody yet. And I think that's been the narrative, at least in some of the underlying conversations around the NFL. And I think it may be the reason why the major media platforms aren't really talking about the Vikings. But I would like to pose a counter argument.
Let's hear it.
So 12-win teams, we're going to compare them. Let's compare this. We'll say now 13 wins because both the Lions and the Vikings have 13 wins. At what cost did this Lions team get those 13 wins? Because let's not forget, this Lions team is really banged up right now, right? Like, this Lions team has half their defense on IR. I think this Lions team in general has the most number of players on IR.
Potentially, yeah.
Across the league. And I could be misquoting that, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close on that. I think I'm near accurate on that they have the most players on IR by a little bit of a margin. And so I think this Vikings team with 13 wins going into the final 2 games of the season is in a much better position. And I would argue against Brad Holmes' Bulge. This Vikings team is built differently than the Lions' 13-win team.
Yeah.
They're built differently because they're healthier and they're prepared to win these last 2 games, hopefully, and win some games in the playoffs. Whereas the Lions are going to struggle. The Lions beat the Bears today. I'm sure you watched that game.
I did, yeah. The Bears are a worthless organization this year. Sorry, Bears fans. Yeah, sorry, Forrest.
And there's a reason why the Bears have only won 1 game against a team over 500. But I don't know. The Lions, I think, are going to struggle against some really good teams.
Ooh, careful with those 2 words, Lions and struggle. You got ripped apart on TikTok for those 2 words.
I did. But mind you, that was a 31-28 Lions victory.
31-29.
31-29. Yeah. See, even I was wrong with that. Like, it was closer than I remember it being. And therein proves my point, right? The Vikings held the Lions to one of the closest margins of victory that they've had all season long. They've blown out a lot of opponents. They've put up a few 50 burgers and a few 40 burgers on teams. Sure, I'll give you guys that. But the Vikings held you to a 3-point win, and the Lions are not nearly as healthy as the Vikings right now. The Vikings are very healthy. You got Gilmore back today. Granted, he didn't look great, but he played okay, and it was good to see him back out there. I think you get Harrison Smith back out there again to end the season. Even if he sits out the Packers game, you get him back out there against the Lions in Week 18. I think that's a good sign for this team.
Harrison Smith's a coach on the field.
Yeah.
He's a guy that people trust to do his job, and will trust that if Harrison Smith walks up and says, you need to scooch over here, your immediate reaction is yes.
Yep.
You know what you're talking about. Like, oh yeah, I did forget that. Like, yeah, you're correct on that point.
So all of that to say, I tend to push back on this homer take from Lions fan Brad Holmes Bulge that not all 12 win, now 13 win teams are built different. Obviously, this is a biased take from a Lions fan. I'm going to flip the script and say, yeah, you're right. Not all 13 win teams are built different. The Vikings are built different, and I think they're built differently enough to win down the stretch.
Yeah. And at this point, both the Lions and Vikings either of them could lose out, and they're already guaranteed playoff spots. And we saw with 2022, doesn't matter what your regular season looks like. Doesn't matter at all. All it takes is one Kirk Cousins dump off to TJ Hawkinson short of the sticks, and your team loses to the Giants, and Daniel Jones gets hundreds of millions of dollars. So, yeah, I agree with you. Not all 12-plus win teams are built the same. But we'll see what happens in the playoffs. And notoriously, the teams that do well in the playoffs are well coached, which both the Lions and Vikings are. They are battle tested, which both the Lions and Vikings are, and they're healthy, which the Vikings are. And the Lions, they haven't lost Jared Goff, they haven't lost everybody on their team, but you can only lose so many guys until it starts affecting you. And the Lions, I don't know who they play next week. The Niners, which they're a good team. They're not what they were in previous years, and they're not as good as they were last year. But they're still a good team who's well coached and injury riddled. But they'll probably beat the Niners next week. But the Vikings are a good team. They're a tough team, and I guarantee you the Lions coaches, they're thinking long and hard about the Vikings, just like the Vikings coaches are thinking long and hard about the Lions. But this is not the game that the delusional Lions fans, which are not all of them, but this is not the game that delusional Lions fans think it will be. It'll be exciting.
I do want to circle back around to Brian Flores for just a second, because we talked briefly about how he could be a head coaching candidate next year. I think something really encouraging for Vikings fans is I don't think this guy is shopping the market actively. Like, maybe he has a notepad in his office at TCO where he's got the available teams, the Bears, the Saints, the Jets.
I think that's it at the moment.
I think that's it. Maybe he's got a little pros and cons list going at his desk, but I don't think he's shopping the market right now. I don't think he's fielding phone calls or sitting on FaceTime with execs from these teams. I think he's focused on week to week beating teams that are out there. I think he's focused on his meetings with Kevin O'Connell. I think he's focused on getting his players healthy, Harrison Smith and plenty others. I don't feel like he's the guy that's just going to abandon ship and say, well, good luck down the stretch, guys. I'm going to start looking ahead towards what's next for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's really encouraging for this Vikings team too. And I'm excited. I think he could be back.
I think so too.
With the Vikings in the future.
A coach that I don't think will be back with his current team next year, just because he'll get so many offers, is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. And I give all of the credit for the Lions. Okay, 90% of the credit for the Lions being so successful to Ben Johnson and his prowess as an elite play caller and an elite offensive coordinator, somebody who will be a head coach in the league, whether it's this coming year or in the future. He gets most of the credit, and I think it's also the perfect combination of him and the Lions head coach, who doesn't give an F, who will go for it on 4th and 30 with the ball on their own 15-yard line if he feels like his team can make it. Yeah. I think when you have, an extreme, and take nothing away from Dan Campbell, he seems like a great guy and a great coach in his own right, but I think you give him a great coached offense and a good coached defense, and just an unwavering confidence and the balls to make a good decision or a ballsy decision. I think that's where you're seeing the Lions blow people out and score 50 points because they don't care, and they're coached well, and they just use what they got, and they're not trying to make friends. So
you saw it today with the Lions against the Bears. They were up by at least 2 touchdowns, I think, and they made that ridiculous fake fumble toss. Jared Goff fakes it to Jahmyr Gibbs, and Gibbs falls down. Goff fakes like he's fallen down, and then he just throws a nice little arc to Samuel Laporta for an easy touchdown. And then he and coach are on the sideline looking at the iPads like, hey, did you see that? That was pretty awesome, right? Like, it's like, and I think we both were like, oh, that's so frustrating. Like,
I think I texted you and said I hate the Lions.
Yeah, it's so irritating.
But I really think the Lions will feel it deeply, and it will alter their organization when Ben Johnson gets the head coaching job he's earning.
Agreed. Well, and I think Dan Campbell's more of a defensive-minded coach anyways. So to have that gap on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to have to be filled by somebody. And I don't know that it's going to be Dan Campbell himself. I don't think he's really got that skill set. So he's going to have to find somebody else to complement him. And I don't know that anybody available in the league will match up with him as well as Ben Johnson has. So,
all right. Green Bay. Next week, final 2 games of the season. You got Green Bay in Minnesota, and then the Vikings travel to Detroit. Let's talk about Green Bay.
I don't really think the Vikings struggle with the Packers.
Okay. All right. I mean, Green Bay, talk about another well-coached team. As much as I hate to say it, their current quarterback is good. I don't think he's Aaron Rodgers level, at least yet. I don't think he's Brett Favre level, at least yet. But Jordan Love, he has proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he is a good quarterback, at least a Pro Bowl level quarterback, which is really frustrating. It'd be nice for the Packers to have a decade or two where they're just shopping for a quarterback every 5 minutes. But oh well, that's just not the way it is. I think the Packers are a good team. We'll see. They seem to be getting lucky against the Saints tomorrow. This will probably be out before the Monday Night Football game.
Should be.
But you may be listening to this after the Packers play the Saints, and you'll know what happens in that game before we do. But already the Saints, I think, as of even right now, they've ruled out a few key players, Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara and a couple other key players, which, I mean, Packers can only play who's on the other side of the ball, but that seems pretty lucky for the Packers. The Vikings hosting the Packers. I still think the Vikings are a better team than Green Bay, but it's hard to beat a team twice. And if you remember in that first Vikings-Packers game, the Vikings started what seemed like a very embarrassing blowout. Almost embarrassing for the Vikings, too, because, I feel bad for beating a team this bad. And then give the Packers credit, they came back. And they almost beat the Vikings that game, but the Vikings held out and won. It was one of their 13 wins this year. It's too early, but what do you think will happen in this game?
I will say a key to victory is the Vikings are touted as one of the better run defenses in the league. They didn't necessarily look like it today against the Seahawks.
Seahawks they abandoned the run.
They did abandon the run. I agree.
So did the Vikings too, but
early on though, the Seahawks were kind of running on this team. And I feel like that's been the case the last couple of games. Teams have found some holes. I think the key to curbing the Packers is going to be stopping Josh Jacobs. I think if Josh Jacobs doesn't have anywhere to go, and it's going to be up the middle, but it's also going to be out on the outside, because I think Josh Jacobs is that kind of back that can get the ball and he can make that decision. I've got a lane going up the middle. I've also got an opportunity to go to the left or the right, depending on what play is called and what protection and all that. You got to stop Josh Jacobs. I think if you stop Josh Jacobs and if you force Jordan Love to throw the ball a whole lot, I think the Vikings win this game pretty easily. And I think this Vikings team is going to come in hungry for this win against the Packers. It's their last home game of the season. It's against the Packers, of all teams. A team that this team hates. I hate the Packers. I've trained my kids to hate the Packers mostly.
Me too, by the way. My kids, they don't like green and gold.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the way it should be. I think if they can stop Josh Jacobs, I really don't think the Packers have a whole lot of an offense outside of their run game. Yeah, Jordan Love can kind of scramble outside the pocket and make a few plays here and there, but it's not going to be enough to overcome this Vikings defense. And this Vikings defense, the secondary, has proven that it can cover these guys. It can cover Romeo Doubs. He's been really quiet this year. Christian Watson has had his moments, but he's been relatively quiet compared to last year. I just don't know that there are a ton of other weapons on this Packers team that are going to just go out there and flex their muscle on this Vikings defense.
Yeah.
So that's my take. I think you stop the run first and foremost. Everything else will take care of itself. I think the Vikings win pretty well. I think it's let's say it's a 35-21 affair in the Vikings' favor.
All right. Well, the last time you predicted that score, I think, was ahead of the Falcons game, and you were wrong. Much like I was wrong about the Vikings win total this season, in a good way, the Vikings scored more than that. So
yeah, the Vikings won 42-21 in that game.
Let's hope you're right. I'm going to go a different direction. I think this season has been long. I think there's a 0% chance the Vikings don't win another game this regular season. And I think beating one team twice is very difficult, especially if they're not a team named the Bears. I think the Vikings struggle mostly internally. I think some injuries may pop up this week. Harrison Smith may miss another week. I don't know anything about that other than it said foot and that he was out. Although he did travel and they didn't make that decision on whether or not he'd play until this morning. I think the Vikings have at least one more loss in them. I think it comes against the Packers here. I think it's going to be like 14-28.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, that actually lines up with our preseason picks.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you picked the Vikings to lose this game against the Packers preseason, and I picked them to win. So we're sticking with our guns here in this Week 17 matchup. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
All right.
I'm confident.
Okay.
I feel like this Vikings team, I wouldn't be surprised if this Vikings team wins out and
they definitely could.
Gets that one seed. I think they're motivated. I think they know what's at stake, and I think I've already said this, and I saw this in a tweet somewhere the last week or week and a half. This team is grounded. They're not like this team isn't playing for that one seed. They didn't play for the one seed today. They played to win today. And they're not going to play for the one seed against the Packers. They're going to play to win against the Packers. And they're not going to play for the one seed against the Lions. They're going to play to win against the Lions. That is their mindset. That's how Kevin O'Connell is leading this team. I love that about this team. I think that's going to be the key to success down the stretch here in these last few games, and it's going to be the key to success into the playoffs, for sure. So, yeah.
I hope you're right. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, Evan's an idiot. You're totally wrong. I hope you're right. Maybe I'm just protecting myself, and that's okay too.
We're Vikings fans. We need to protect ourselves sometimes.
Because they almost lost to the Seahawks today.
What did you think of the Irish Red Ale? Lucky catch.
Mine is gone.
Yeah. Mine's not quite gone yet.
It was delicious. I think the vanilla porter was slightly better, but that's not saying anything bad about this Irish Red. This is very delicious. Both of these beers from River Ridge Brewing were delicious. Yes, they were free, but they didn't pay us for our opinions. Go try them. If you have the chance, try them. They're amazing. I can't wait to go there in person to try some more of these, which we will have our fair share, an appropriate and safe, responsible share, but a fair share. But yeah, I can't wait to go there and try this straight off the tap, because if it's anything as good straight off the tap as it was out of the can, it's going to be amazing. Today's was awesome. I'm really glad that you saved some of these for me.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, as we wrap things up here, where can people find us?
We are everywhere. If you go online just to the Google machine and type in The Skol Hop, you will find our Twitter. You will find our Instagram, our Facebook, our website, theskolhop.com. Our email is theskolhop@gmail.com. We are on TikTok. We're on Blue Sky. We're everywhere. So if you want to find us, you'll find us. And if nothing else, our website probably links out to everything. TeePublic. If you're watching, Evan is modeling our Sammy D t-shirt, which is a very amazing cartoon version of Sam Darnold throwing or getting ready to throw a bottle of Sunny D, and there's a Sammy D, Sunny D logo mashup underneath Sam Darnold. So check that out. That's one of my favorite designs. We should have done, I was thinking about this when I saw that, we should have done the Josh Dobbs rocket
we should
logo
have in
that
a
your wife made up for us last year.
Cool.
We should have done a shirt for that. But yeah, check out TeePublic. That's where our merch is. T-shirts, really, sweatshirts, coffee mugs. You got a nice mug over there. We have a few designs, so check that out. We get a very small kickback on anything purchased there, but the stuff from TeePublic is pretty good quality, so check that out. Other than that, yeah, everywhere. If you want to get a hold of us right away, Twitter, just add us and we will see it and we will talk back.
Yeah, for sure. Next week should be pretty interesting against the Packers. Mm-hmm. You have them losing. I have them winning. So one of us will spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Next week. We only have a few things left on the wheel. There's not a lot left. But the elusive wax a body part.
That's still there. That's still out there.
It's still there. And sit in the child's chair. Eat an entire jar of pickles.
Yeah, that would actually be kind of good. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, I like pickles.
That might be the least punishment we have left.
Maybe like a little cleanse.
Yeah.
Anyways, tune in next week for that, because one of us will have to spin the wheel and we will have to suffer the punishments either because of a Vikings win or a Vikings loss.
Yeah.
You never know. I really enjoyed both of these beers, the Irish Red and the Vanilla Porter. I would agree with you. I think that Irish...
or the Vanilla Porter?
Sorry, yes. The Vanilla Porter is slightly better.
Yeah.
Just because it brings me back to some of those...
That's just our personal preference. Yeah.
College days, some memories that you and I have shared together around a vanilla porter back in the day. Mm-hmm. But this Irish Red is nothing to balk at either. It's a good beer, delicious. I still have a little bit left. I'm excited to finish it off.
Yeah,
but I had fun. It was a great episode talking about this awesome Vikings win. And we've got a couple more games left, and I'm excited to continue talking about that and see how far these Vikings go.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a great episode, maybe best episode yet. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate, happy holidays to those who don't. Skol to everyone, even if you root for the Packers. Till next week, Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop.